okay, this is what we're supposed to do at this age. And we graduate, then we find the
Mhm.
job. These are all the things we wanted, but we're still left empty. This is not where I thought I was going to be. Help.
Yeah. I think, feel, know that 2026 is a time to embrace more wealth, more opportunity, more prosperity, more joy, more happiness. But we sort of have to get it together. So, to get us there, I created a program called the Held Container. Let me ask you a question. Does your life work because you feel you hold everything together? You brace for things, you brace for life. If you can say yes to that, then I invite you to pause. Take a breath. The Held Container is a small, intentional program designed to replace bracing with structure so your nervous system can rest and money no longer feels stressful or overwhelming. This isn't about pushing harder, fixing yourself, or doing more. It's about creating safety, stability, support where you've been carrying everything alone. I've opened this program for only 6 people. 6 people who are ready to allow money to feel safe instead of stressful and to experience what it's like to be held by structure rather than pressure. I think we can all identify with that. So if this feels calm instead of exciting, it's not a coincidence. Your system is already responding to the Held Container. Apply now. Apply at nagarelife.com. I hope we get to work together. Welcome to Find Your Flow, Sabine Hayes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
And you
this
said
is
that
already a
perfectly.
joy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, listeners, I have here with me someone who has given me the grace to Americanize everything that she basically stands for. The name of her company, the name of herself. I'm going to do my best. I am. I'm going to do my best with the French pronunciations here. She is the founder of Georgette Maris. Her name is Sabine Guillaume Hayes. And that's the best I've got for us here today.
That's incredible. That was beautiful.
Thank you so much. So everybody, Sabine is an interior designer, and the whole reason why I invited her on here was because number one, she made my feng shui heart just open up and sigh with her bio. And I love to help people bring peace to their homes. I think that that's really important. This where we live, and it could be an apartment, a house, a lean-to, whatever. It is where we come back to rest, restore, rejuvenate. So I really do believe that our spaces are not meant to just provide shelter, but they are the actual foundation upon which we build our lives and we build our self-identity. So that's why you're here, my friend. Let's kick this episode off. Sabine, what is your definition of
I love that you asked this question with every guest because I was thinking about this and I was just like, just the word flow. Like when I think of flow, how does it make me feel? What's the first thing that I think of? And when I kept going back to that question, I think of like a river or something that's constantly moving. And so the word that kept coming up for me is movement. And so when I think of flow, I think of movement, but not necessarily rushed movement or forced movement. It's like a steady, intentional movement. And
I
it
love
almost
that.
feels like being carried or guided or shaped by
Mm,
life.
right? I love the little
Yeah.
yes, by life. So, given your definition, can you think of a time, remember a time and share it with us when you weren't in flow, where you sort of just felt kind of trapped? And then how did you get out of it?
So with flow being movement for me, another thing I think of too is just growth, like growth through every season. And that doesn't necessarily mean that every season is, going to be sunshine and rainbows, but sometimes that is pain, sometimes that's loss, sometimes that's struggle. And for me, the biggest thing for me is I feel like I stepped out of flow when I lost my grandmother and my mom. And so I grew up with a single mom and I come from a big family. My mom was like the second youngest of 10, but a lot of them were my family's from the island. So a lot of them were not in the States. So I grew up with my mom in New York City and Boston, and then we moved to New Jersey. So all along the East Coast. But it was just for most of my life, it was me and her. And then my grandmother. My grandmother has been in New York since the 60s.
Mm.
And so a lot of the shaping of my world was through their upbringing, you know?
These
And
women, these strong
yes,
women.
these strong women. And so that's what I grew up around. That was my world. And so they were my inspiration. When I think about being grounded, like I feel like they played such a large role in that. And yeah, like you said, they were my role models. And so losing them felt like a silence. And
Mm.
it was like a silence that felt like a pause that it almost like stopped the flow. It's like a rock in the middle of a stream, and then it affects how the rest of the water just flows. That's how I felt. I felt like, well, where do I go from here? And even though I was an adult, I was 22, I was 16, I was 18 or 17 rather when I lost my grandmother. And I could see how that affected my mom. Like my mom was very
Sure.
strong, uh, was not one that really cried. I never saw her cry. That was the first time I saw my mom cry was when we lost my grandmother. And then my mom battled breast cancer and then lost her fight in 2006. And just even going through that journey with her of like chemotherapy, radiation, and
Mhm.
just that intense journey. And I was 22 when she lost her battle to breast cancer. But it just left me with a lot of questions, you know? So that's what I mean when I say like I felt like a silence, because I didn't know how to move or how to like navigate life through there. And I even remember my family, aunts and uncles sitting me down because I was 22 at the time. And I only grew up with my mom and my grandmother. So just, I always say it wasn't an intervention, but it felt like one.
It's
Um,
sort of.
it,
It's a
it was
love
sort of.
intervention. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a love intervention. My uncles and my aunts sitting with me at my cousin's house, and I'll never forget it. And, they were just like, this is what life is, this is what life is.
Yeah.
And so, but it gave me the confidence, said, you're an adult, you make your own decisions. It's not like you have a parent or a guardian that you can now go to. So a lot of it was very tough to hear. I'm like, why are you guys telling me this? I'm
Right?
still in mourning. I'm still in mourning. But looking back now, I'm really grateful for that hard conversation. It was just a reminder. They were like, stand on your own 2 feet. You're
Mm.
strong. Don't let anybody push you around. And, don't let anybody tell you what you should do. So it
Yeah.
was it was almost like, okay, here's the real world. You don't have any parents. Go. That's
Completely unvarnished.
yes.
Yeah.
That's
Welcome. Welcome to the
welcome.
real world.
Welcome to the real world. That's what it felt like because since then, and it's not that my mom had an easy life, but she provided for me. She
Mhm.
was someone I could confide in. She's someone that I looked up to. So now, no longer having that, like almost like that foundation, I was just like, what do I
Yeah.
do? What do I do? I always thought that my mom would see her grandkids, that she would see. She did see me graduate college, which was probably one of the happiest moments in both of our lives. But it was just, I don't know, because when you go from teenage years to your adult years, teenage years aren't necessarily when you're closest to your parents.
That's
And
right.
so being a young adult, I was looking forward to just, as I got older, just confiding in my mom, like, tell me about this
Yeah.
life thing, because you've been living it longer than me. And just her sharing her wisdom, like the way that I used to talk to my grandmother and she used to
Yeah.
share her
Yeah.
wisdom. I was looking forward to that. And I just felt like that was just cut off.
Yeah.
She couldn't be there when I got married, had kids, and I have wonderful people in my life, and so my aunt stepped in, like I remember she was there at the hospital when I gave birth. to my daughter. So there were other women in my life
Mhm.
that kind of filled in that gap, but man, it wasn't how I thought it was going to play out. Like I guess I always thought I would always have them. So to answer that
22.
at
22 is a
22,
tough age.
yeah,
I mean, I remember being 22. It was a while ago, a few decades.
same, same.
Um, just a few. But our son is 22, and I look at him and and I'm thinking about how you do have this leap in maturity by the age of 22. I think something huge happens between 20 and 22, for sure.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
But while you may not need a parent for permission, that relationship changes. You need a parent, you long for a parent that can give you guidance at that point.
Yeah.
And I can't, yeah. I can completely understand that feeling of it's
Yeah.
like just a garage door that comes down and you're cut off.
Mhm.
It's just like that sensory deprivation
Right.
of, well, what now?
What now? Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I
how?
just
Now I got to
graduated from
figure it out. Like
college.
what?
Yeah. It's like, wait, I'm working full time and it's like, yeah, so all of these responsibilities.
That's what I was just gonna say. Wait, I have a phone bill and a heating bill and a water bill
Right.
and a rent and what?
Right.
Like, there are just these certain practical things of life. At
Yeah.
the age of 22, you're, just getting out of college, finishing up college. You don't necessarily know how any of that works.
Not at all.
I mean,
Not
in
not
truth.
at all. Not at all. Yeah, not at all. And I was feeling all of the feelings,
Yeah.
just grieving because I did experience a sense of loss when we lost my grandmother, but like I said, I feel like at least I had, my mom. And the two women, they were so different. They were completely different. Like my grandmother, I always say is like was very classic, loved the finer things in life. I probably get my love for shopping and hosting from her.
Now, is this
Um
Maurice?
that's Georgette. Georgette,
Georgette.
yeah.
Oh, that
And it's that's such an old name, And so my mom's
befitting a woman who likes to shop and likes
yes.
the luxuries in life. Love it.
Like
Love
I
it.
I I used to drink orange juice from like her champagne flutes and growing up. And we went out to eat and she lived in Manhattan, and so it's just
Of
I
course
got
she
that
did.
glimpse and I was spoiled. My mom, on the other hand, was very practical, very like we're not why would we need to eat out when we have food at home?
Right.
Just
Right.
lived life on a budget and so it was just the two women were
Polar
just
opposites.
polar opposites. And so I always say that I'm like right smack in the middle. And so I'm like, I'm a piece of Georgette, I'm a piece of Maryse, and and
This would make
and
for a great sitcom, by the way. I
thank you.
really would.
I ended up naming my design firm after them, like Georgette and Marie's. And it's so funny because a lot of people call me Georgette and I'm like, yeah, I'm not Georgette, but okay. But I'm like smack in the middle between both of them. And I to this day I still remember like telling my mom that I wanted to go to art school. And my family's from the Caribbean. So unless you're like a lawyer, a doctor, an
Right.
engineer,
Right.
those are like the only successful careers. And so my mom was like, art school? Are you kidding me? Like, what are you going to do with that? And so, whereas my grandmother, who was a pianist, she was like, that's
Mm.
wonderful. Follow your dreams.
Where did you go?
I went to the Art Institute of Philadelphia. So that's what
Nice.
brought me into Philadelphia. And I wanted to get into FIT. And I remember telling when I did not get into FIT, I remember because that's in Manhattan and my
Mhm.
grandmother was living at the time. And she's like, you
I
didn't
can
get
see
in?
it. Like I can see it where you're driving to I can see that.
She was like, you didn't get
Fashion
into
Institute. It
FIT.
is like your eyes light up. Yeah, I know.
And so I even though like I explained the flow as being like it just stopped,
Yeah.
glimpses of like those memories, it just those like spark joy. I'm so
Mm,
grateful for those memories. And even though I was 22, I'm grateful that I had 22 years with my mom and that I
for
had
sure.
18, 17 years with my grandmother. But yeah, it definitely felt like you say, the garage door just closed on me and just kind of feeling stuck. And because I think before then, I didn't, my grandfather had passed, but I was young and I wasn't as close to my grandfather. So I hadn't experienced loss in that sense or
Yeah.
grieving and truly mourning. And, you know,
Wow. So there you are at the age of 22, having lost like your compass and your rudder.
that is a great way. That is a great description.
And you're just sort of standing in the darkness, which the age of 22, it's very young to have that life altering position all of a sudden. Usually it takes most people like around to that 45, 47, 50, that midlife crisis where they
Right.
wake up one day and go, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just sort of like, I don't know, like what I've done here. I don't know what I've built, but do I stick with it or do I change direction? And there you were at the age of 22. And I mean, from my experience and from raising my kids, there's a quarter life crisis that happens as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and it usually happens with people, with young adults who have gone to college and they've been thinking, I'm going to major in this thing, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to have a job, I'm going to love my career, and then a few years out of college, they go, I think I studied the wrong thing. I don't really like this. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm not having any fun, but people tell me I have to make money. So now what?
Yep.
And here you were, just graduated out of design school at that point.
Yes.
What did you do? How did you find your way back? Because here you are, an interior designer in Philly, right? In Philadelphia, which,
Right.
by the way, neighbor. I'm not
Oh my gosh, yeah, we
I
are
know.
neighbors.
I
Oh
know.
my
We really
goodness.
are. We're neighbors. I could scream out my window, depending on
Yeah.
where you live.
Right.
And most people will ignore me. Welcome to Philly. But how did you find the capacity within you to open your heart, to allow for beauty to come into your life? Because when you're in that bleak place, it's really easy to shut out the more beautiful, the more soft, the more luxurious things in life. How did you do that? At such a young age, my God.
Absolutely, because I mean, I was mad. I went through all of the feelings. I was mad at
Yeah.
God. I'm like, "Seriously, God? Like, how do you just gonna take her away? Like,
Right.
at 22?
Like,
Like,
look at all of the bazillion people out here in the world, and that's the one you chose?
right." I'm like, "This is not how this was supposed to go," you know? I used to always joke around with my grandmother, "You're gonna live until 100," you know? And my mom passed at 59, and, my grandmother was 88, so she had, you know, more of a fuller life.
Yeah.
My mom was the second youngest, and so my uncle, who was younger than her, had just passed of cancer. Meanwhile, you have my uncle, who was the second born, who's now in his 90s, have so it was very difficult for them too, like, they lost a younger sibling because you always
Yeah.
expect, you know, the older people to pass before the younger people, and so it was difficult for them as well, but I had a lot of questions. I was definitely mad with God. I didn't necessarily stop believing in God, and I'm like, "Okay, there is a I know that He's in control, there's a higher power, I can only control me," right?
You may
Yeah,
be
it's
in
just like,
charge, but I
"Come
fucking hate
on,"
what you're
like,
doing.
what are you doing? And I really felt it when I was going through different times in my life where I really could have used just her guidance, her wisdom, her advice, you know, getting into relationships and, you know, what direction should I, you know, go in? Raising children. How in the heck did you do this whole parenting thing, you know?
On your own.
On your own. I'm like, it's two of us as parents and I'm struggling.
And we can't get it together.
Can't get it together, you know? And then I think so getting back to the flow wasn't an immediate process. It wasn't like
Oh,
oh,
I
we're
love
back
that
in
you
the
said
flow.
that. It never is.
It was a steady, and it still is, because grieving, there's a really, really great book that someone gave me, a friend of mine who also lost her mom, and it's called Through the Season of Grief, and I always share it with, you know, people that have lost a loved one, because mourning doesn't always look the same, and there's times that are easier than others, but it's such an important step in the grieving process is to mourn. And I was happy that I was able to just take that time. like after it happened, honestly, for a good few months, even year, to really sit with my emotions and sit with what I was feeling. And I'm grateful that I had people in my life and I got the support that I needed. But even now, I mean, she passed in 2006. So that was a time. But when I think of like her birthday, or when I think
Sure.
of, certain times of my life, even when I look at my kids, like just telling them about grandmom and them having questions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like she really would have loved their personalities, and because
Mm.
she loved children. So it's both. Those memories kind of make me sad, but then I think part of what brought me back to the flow is one, just remembering who those women were and the foundation.
Mm.
So not only did I have the memories, but I remembered what they instilled in me,
Mm.
the principles that they instilled in me, because I can't imagine, being a single parent and what my mom had to go through, not having a lot of family back then in the States, the difficulties and the challenges that she came across. I can't imagine what she had to go through. But I feel like she did a really great job just, with who I've become and I'm still becoming. That's actually my continuous word, is becoming.
I
I've
love
stopped
that.
stopped looking at, and I've embraced the journey, because I think before it was kind of like what you talked about, how this it's almost like a landscape of, okay, this is what we're supposed to do at this age, and we graduate, then we find the
Mhm.
job, then we find the job, we find the spouse or whatever if we want one. We have the kids, and then we're just like, oh, these are all the things we wanted, but we're still left empty. Like
Yes.
everything
Yes.
that we wanted, we're like, we get it. We're
Yeah.
just like, this is not how I thought the career was going to go. Or this is not how I thought, like I went to design school, but nobody explained business. Like running a business is completely different than,
Yep.
and so all of these challenges of like, this is not how I thought this was going to go. And this is not where I thought I was going to be. So
Mhm.
kind of like when my grandmother and my mom passing, feeling like this is not how this was gonna go. Like they were supposed to like die really old, and I was supposed to go through a
Watch
lot
my
of my
kids.
watch my kids,
Help
right?
me.
Help
Yes.
me, give me some wisdom, and continue sharing all of those memories. Graduating from art school, I am supposed to just love design and what I'm doing every single day, and business is supposed to, you know,
Wouldn't that be
um
magical?
and you fall in love and you marry the love of your life, and then you have these kids, and it's just all supposed to be great, and then it's not. Life is just
Right.
life. And so I've embraced the word becoming, because I stopped looking at, well, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is
Mm.
the end point. This is the final chapter. This is the destination. I've arrived to the destination. And I've kind of, and I don't know now, I'm in my 40s now, but now I'm just like, so I'm in that kind of midlife crisis stage, but instead of a midlife crisis, I'm like, well, I'm just I'm just on this journey. These are the lessons that I've learned, that I've
Mhm.
gone through, the challenges that I've gone through. This is where I am now. And hopefully I don't repeat those same mistakes, and I've learned from those lessons, but I'm also grateful and looking forward to what is to come.
Ooh.
So it's kind of like this constant, I'm not in control. I'm continuously learning and growing, but I'm becoming, because I'm knowing that I'm never going to arrive in
Yeah.
this lifespan.
I
So
love that.
I've embraced that recently, because and it's helped with a lot of frustrations
For
and
sure.
comparing yourself to other people, like this is what I should have done. Or I know our culture, like the parents often compare their kids to other kids.
Mhm.
Like I was telling you, my mom was like, you want to go to art school, why don't you just go to school to be a nurse? Or I'm like, but I don't like blood and I don't like hospitals, so how does that gonna work?
Do
And
you
then
like the color red? And I like
right.
the color white.
But she would like compare, like, well, such and such is a nurse,
Right.
and, or a doctor or a lawyer, and they're doing well. And,
I
um,
think that's pretty universal.
Yeah,
From culture to
probably.
culture.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
pretty universal. I grew
Yep.
up with a Japanese mother who was
Oh, yeah.
basically the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
You wanna
understand.
what? Go practice piano.
Right. So you understand.
I do, I feel you. I do.
But and that creeps into your adult years because 'cause you're now comparing yourself to this other business owner or your coworker or,
Mhm.
this founder. You're like, "Oh, well, they're doing that," and it's like, "Okay, this is not where I thought I was gonna be." I feel like I'm still becoming, I'm still learning, I'm still falling and getting back up, but I feel like I'm at peace with kind of, I guess, the evolution of who
Mhm.
I am, and I'm embracing that, and I'm grateful for that, and I think that comes from remembering who they were, and that was partly why when I started my design firm, I'm like, "You know what? Not only personality wise do I feel like I am similar to both of them, just like smashed in the middle. And I've gotten inspiration, and I've been influenced by them to certain degrees. But I feel like even with me studying interior design, my grandmother used to ask me, like, what do you want to, that question, what do you want to do when you grow up? I don't
Mhm.
know. I wanted to do all these different things. And then as I got into my teenage years, I'm like, well, I really love skyscrapers. Like I love walking into buildings and walking into homes and spaces. And I'm kind of fascinated with the shapes and
Yes.
colors and textures of different things. So I actually thought I was going to do architecture at first. And then it was my grandmother that kind of asked me a lot of those questions and asked me, what do I like to do? My mom did not ask me those questions.
That's the
uh,
glory of the grandparent,
yes.
by the way. All of a sudden, like, she probably did not raise your mother like that, but you reap the benefits of
Yeah.
her not being your direct parent,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And not having to take responsibility for who you
Right.
wind up as.
Yes.
I see the same thing with my parents and our daughter, who, by the way, she's heading up to New York in January. She's attending ADA. She's
Oh,
going
wow.
to the, all right, hold on. I have to think about it. There's so many acronyms or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
The
Acronyms.
American
Yeah.
Academy of Design and Arts. Is that what it is? Something like that. ADA. And she's an actor.
That's amazing.
Let's be really clear. If I had told my parents I wanted to be an actor, they
Oh,
would have
there's
been
no
like,
way.
"Sit your ass down.
Have
Again,
like
go practice
have
your
a
piano."
backup
And
plan.
yeah, like, I don't know who you think you are, but but here they are like, "This is the best. Oh, she's
Really?
gonna really be something. We support her 1,000%, and what does
Wow.
she need?" And I'm like, I mean, listen, it's wonderful. It's
Yes.
absolutely
It
wonderful.
is.
And as the parent, I am like, absolutely. Get up there, go to your art school,
Right.
live your dream, live your calling. We'll pay your bills. I get it. I get it. But for your grandmother to be able to come in and feed that for you, I don't
Yes.
think a whole lot of people
Mhm.
have that gift. So, I mean, merci, Georgette, right?
Yes.
Hey there, listener. If you are enjoying the episode, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give us a like. That helps other people be able to find us here on YouTube. Thanks so much. Now let's get back in there.
Yes. I mean, and honestly, being kind of going back to the whole flow thing, like that's how as angry and frustrated as I was, I'm like, I was grateful, because a lot of people lose, their
Yeah.
parents even younger than 22. But I was so grateful that I had those 22 years because they created that foundation for me,
Yeah.
that okay, you're gonna fall in hard times, but you just get back up, like even if you fall flat on your face, like, you get back up, and
Well,
it's never
that's the
too
other
late.
thing. Like when you are following your dreams, that does not negate work. You
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
have to like roll up your sleeves, pull up your pants,
Absolutely.
and get to work.
Yep.
It's that these are inspired actions now.
Yes. Yes.
And inspired actions help you to create your dream. They help you become
Yes, they help you
instead of
become.
just pay the bills and just keep the lights on from day in to day out.
Right.
This perfect, beautiful balance of these two women in your life right? What are your dreams? And now go work for them. I'm gonna give
Go
you the
work for yep,
foundations, right?
yep, and I saw
Again,
that both
merci.
Merci, because, I mean, my grandmother, a lot of my life, I mean, I think she was, what, in her 60s when I was born? So, I saw my grandmother mostly in her retirement.
Mhm.
Like,
It's
she
a
was a
different
teach
mindset.
it's a different mindset, and
Yes.
so, in the islands back home, she was a teacher, and so I used to always hear stories, and when she came to the States, I think she worked for the New York Telephone Company back when it was then it turned Bell Atlantic, then
Yeah.
AT&T.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was like in the '70s, and even when she retired, she, like, did home health care, so she would help, like, elderly people even though she was in
Oh,
her 60s until she fully I think in her 70s, she just stopped working altogether. But for the most part, I saw her in her, like, graceful, I go to my friend's home, I play the piano, I go out to eat, that lifestyle, whereas my upbringing, I saw my mom grind,
yeah.
I saw
Yeah,
her
yeah.
work hard. At some point she had like 2 jobs. And even when we moved to Boston, like her taking 2 trains and a bus just to get to work and
Now I have to ask, where
even
did you live up in
taking
Boston?
so we lived in Everett and
Yeah.
Cambridge. When we first moved, we moved to Cambridge and then Everett, yeah. So
So we
I
lived
feel
up
like
there
I'm
for
a New Englander at heart.
I know, I'm right there with you. If it weren't for the freaking cold, we'd be right
I
back
know.
up there as well. We lived there for 7 years. We
Oh,
were in
nice.
Alston and then Framingham and
Okay.
worked in Boston.
And
Had
worked
our
in
daughter up
Boston?
there at Brigham Women's.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a great city. I mean, even moving to Philadelphia for college, it kinda gives me some Boston, just
Yeah,
with
it
the
does have a li
history
yes.
and
Yes.
yeah, like the cobblestone
Same
streets
time
and
period.
same time period, but there is no other New York, though, that I've learned. I'm
New
like,
York is New York.
New
Oh,
York is just yeah, New York is just I think I was expecting a little bit New York. I'm like, "Oh, I'm moving to the city," and I was just like, "Oh, no,
there's
it's
nothing
different."
like New York. You can't go anywhere on this planet and have it
Yeah,
be similar
it's
to New
just
York. It's just its
it's
own.
the city that never sleeps.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. It's a
It is.
vibe. And so with my grandmother, again, she lived in Manhattan for most of my life. And the reason why we had to move to Boston was because I was born in Queens, but then my grandmother lived in a 55 plus community in
Mhm.
Manhattan, like a building. So we couldn't move in with her. So then my mom's best friend got her a job with the state in Massachusetts, and so we moved to Boston. So she was chasing better opportunity. That's the viewpoint that I saw my mom working
Yeah.
hard and even taking adult classes at nighttime too to further her
Wow.
education.
And not
'Cause
afraid. Not
not
afraid to go
afraid.
from New York up to Boston.
No,
God bless her.
even
Woo!
though only knowing her best friend, and then just developing a community. Because even her being a single mom, sometimes working second jobs and overnight shifts, she had to leave me
Yes.
somewhere. So I saw that of like, "Oh, this whole parenting thing, it takes a community, like, it takes a
Right.
village."
Absolutely.
So I also saw that, the importance of family, but the importance of friendships as well. So all of those things, I saw how with my grandmother, friendships was very important to her. She had all different types of friends. She would have them over, she would host, she would give them coffee. Like she was just such a great host. And my mom was a great host too, but my mom put definitely more importance into family. She's like,
Mm.
family sticks together, family. So again, those are different influences that I got from both of them,
Yeah,
and for me
absolutely.
now, like I cherish, my friendships. I cherish my family. And even now, getting older, realizing that I don't necessarily need everybody to be my friend. Cherishing though, because it takes work. Real
Yes, it does.
friendships it takes work and cultivating those friendships and those even with family. So embracing that I got from them. Oh, I got from them and infusing that into the home, and I love what I do because I feel like exactly what you talked about in the beginning of how, feeling like home is this sacred place. It was always a place that, whether it was my mom's home or my grandmother's home, people always felt comfortable. So I would say home from those 2 women have always felt like safe places, whether it was my grandmother's one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan in Midtown, or whether it was, like, my mom's townhome in Boston and then moving
Mhm.
to New Jersey. It always felt like a safe place, and I loved being home. There was always something special about being home, inviting people over.
Yeah.
I love that. I loved that, and so I love that I'm able to do that, for other people.
That is fantastic. One quick correction. It is
Mhm.
the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. ADA. That's where our
Dramatic
daughter is
arts,
going.
okay,
Dramatic
okay.
Arts. And it is literally blocks away from the Fashion Institute of Technology.
Awesome.
Yeah. I know. She's like she went up to go take a look at the area
Uh-huh.
like last weekend. And it was her first solo trip to New York.
That's a
We
big
raised them
deal.
actually in New Jersey. So
Okay.
we used to take them up to New York all the time. You just
Yeah.
hop on the train and you go, and it
Right.
was no big
Yeah.
deal. So, but this was her first.
That's a
Drive
big
herself to the train
deal.
station, get on the train, get up there into the city and be by herself. And she was like, I love it. And I said,
Wow.
that's really good because New York, it's either going to chew you up and spit you out, or it's going to like catapult you to a whole other level in a stratosphere. And
Yep.
she's like, I'm ready. And I would say, go get it.
Love that, cause yeah, New York is definitely what do they say? New York I mean, I say the same thing about Philly, cause Philly's tough.
Philly's gritty. I mean, there's a
Philly's
reason.
gritty, yeah. Like they say in New York, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
You
I
really
feel
can.
like I feel like Philly is a different type of if you can make it because Philly is gritty and it's tough
Hmm.
to build community if you're
Hmm.
outside of the community. Like once you're in the community, you're like
It's
family.
yeah, it's 100%.
But it takes a lot of time. I mean, they will boo their own people.
I know. I know.
So you
It
have to
feels like
have
if you can survive here, you can
if
like
you can
fucking
survive.
champion anywhere.
It's like that, okay, you gotta grow that thick skin.
Oh,
And also that's I think that's the beauty too of being exposed, whether it's in the city or the country. So I'm
yes.
always a big fan of exposure. Like, I'm so happy that, like, even though I grew up in the city, I was born in Queens, but then when we moved to Boston, we lived in the burbs.
Yeah.
Still had access to, like, downtown, but we lived in the burbs, and then when I moved to Jersey, I told my mom, was like, "We're in the woods."
It's like it's this farmland. I don't understand it. Why are we in the wilderness?
Then
What
this
is
was, like,
happening here?
Hamilton. This was, like we lived in Hamilton and we lived in Princeton. Like, there were
Oh,
woods and there was like, it wasn't like we were in rural Pennsylvania.
I
I was
know.
like,
I know.
"This feels like country." And so but then going back to my mom's homeland of Haiti, my mom's from Haiti, my dad was from Cuba, I was like, "Oh, this is a different type of country and city." And so I
Yes.
say that to say, like, I'm a big fan of exposure, but there's something about having access to the city that it changes you. It forces you to, like,
Yes, it does.
I don't know, grow up, make decisions fast,
Yep.
meet different types of people, like all different walks of life.
All different types.
All
That's right.
different walks of life. So I feel like that exposure will help her. Yeah. Yeah.
I always like when I was in my training as a gyrotonic instructor, I was up in New York City. I had to do 2 weeks in New York City, and that was fine. But I wound up having like an emotional breakdown and crying in the middle of our certification course. And I ran out onto the street of New York. You think anybody blinked? They were just like,
They're like,
get
"Why are
out of
you
the
in
way.
our
They weren't
way?"
even like,
Yeah.
excuse me. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody cared. They just walked
Yeah.
around me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, right? And they're like, mm-hmm. I gotta get to the
Mhm.
Turkish bath. Move.
Right. Yep. Yep. So true.
So I mean, at least they walked around me. I feel like in Philly they
Right.
would have like knocked me out of the way.
They would have
Boom.
not, yeah, Philly, they would have, and then they would have cursed you out. Like,
Yes. Oh my God. So take me into this world of design now. So you have all of these different experiences, all of these different life experiences that
Mhm.
bring us into the house of Georgette Maurice. And how does all of this come together?
So I feel like, and going to design school, it's so funny because after finishing design school, you then realize like, "Well, this was great, but then designing in real life is completely different
Very
because now
different.
you're dealing with real people. They're not just
Yes.
like fake clients that have endless budgets.
Right, right. I'd like silk on my walls, please. And now it's more like, I'd like silk. I can't afford silk. Can you make it look like silk
Can
and
you make
charge
it
me
look like
for
so?
mud?
And then that's just working for a company. And then deciding I want to go on my own was like
Another big
also like
decision.
another big decision. So I feel like it goes back to, okay, what do I feel like is my strength? Because again, it's almost like most fields. There's so many different things that you can do in
Yeah.
design. Residential, commercial. Do you want to design hospitals? Do you want to design schools, libraries? Do you want to design somebody's backyard? Do you want to do home renovations? Do you want to do kitchen and baths? Feng
Yeah.
shui
Yeah.
is another form of design. And so there's so many different aspects or directions I could have gone in. And I've been happy to be able to, I guess, get my feet wet in a lot of different aspects of design.
Mhm.
I started off in the furniture industry, and it's funny because in college, I was like, furniture. I always thought that I would work with. It wasn't always my favorite thing, and then go figure, my first job out of college was furniture. Because I used to fall asleep in like the history of furniture design class. But working in a furniture showroom too, because in my second job was also working as a design consultant in a furniture showroom, understanding furniture and the shapes and styles of
Mhm.
different furniture, the functional and aesthetic of different pieces. It made me go back to like intentionality, which is, I talk a lot about that now. And just being able to come full circle of, okay, these are the different aspects of design. I personally love residential design. I've done some commercial, but it always comes back to residential for me. There's something
Mhm.
about working in somebody's home. And then also the love of feeling safe and home being personal.
Yeah.
And I love the marriage of functionality and aesthetics. Sometimes we can focus so much on like being trendy and and
Yes.
making it look beautiful. And I think now I've flowed into this feeling of, okay, it can still look beautiful, but it doesn't have to be like Pinterest or what you
Yes.
saw at your neighbor's house or what this celebrity's home looks like. Let's dive into what works for you. How do
Mhm.
you flow in your home? What your lifestyle is, what your household's needs look like, what your personality is. And so I love kind of pulling that out from everyone. And I remember one of my art professors used to say, because we used to have to study different time periods. And one thing that he said is, you don't have to love or even like every single time period. Because I think my least favorite was like the Victorian period. I'm like, it was just, they were doing too much. Like, it was just too
The chair was
much.
basically on the floor. I
I
don't
know,
how
it's
understand
just
how
like,
anybody was comfortable. Everything is small and velvet. Like,
and just
I don't get it either.
so many details. And I love
And
details, don't
so
get me
many
wrong.
details.
But
The
like,
carving.
so the carvings. And so that was never really my favorite time period. But one thing that he said that stood out to me is, you don't have to love or even like every time period, but you have to find appreciation in each
Mhm.
time period.
Sure.
And so now, even if a client, if they're like, I have this piece that's very sentimental, from it was my grandmother's, and I have to design an entire room or entire home with this as the
Centerpiece.
influence or the focus or the inspiration, even though sometimes it could feel like a challenge. I love that because it's the uniqueness, it's the fact that maybe every time they walk into that room, that heirloom or that piece that's
Mm.
sentimental, it holds a story, it's a conversation piece. It's a conversation piece, it's a piece that's personal for them, But then guests that come into the home, they may feel like, "Oh, like, this is a different chair, but it looks really great," and it can now be a talking point, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of storytelling through design.
Mm.
I share that a lot now. I didn't always used to be. I used to always focus so much on like, okay, it has to be functional, it has to be stylish. And
Right.
now I'm like, how is each space being translated? How is like your personality being translated in the space? Like how do you actually want to flow and feel in the space? All
I
of those
love
things like
that.
function, design, it could look beautiful. Of course it has to look beautiful and it has to work. But most importantly, like how do you want to feel in each space? And so that's what I've been focusing on now. Cuz I mean, even again, like even growing up, like I go back to, the when I look at old pictures of my grandmother's apartment, all of her pieces were like multifunctional pieces. Like she had a
Mm.
1 bedroom apartment in Midtown, but when you were in her apartment, never felt like, and even though you would hear sirens and, people walking by. I mean, if you open the window, if you open to
Right.
like the
Yeah.
window, but inside, you never felt like you were in one of the busiest cities because she just always made you feel at home.
Mhm.
But that's a feeling. That was the beautiful blue sectional that she had in her living room that was also a sofa bed for when guests came over. It was more than just the furniture pieces or the colors on her wall or the artwork that she had. It was all of those things put together with her being the host that she was. Those are things that kind of carried with that almost like the feeling of I love being here.
Mm.
So I feel like if my clients can say, I love being here, I love being home, I feel like I've done my job.
My
Yeah.
God, I love it. Listeners, are you like, do you understand why I wanted to have her on here?
I'm like, if you
Not
could,
not
and
not a
people
lot of
felt that.
designers do that though.
Yeah. And people felt that during COVID. Like COVID was a
Yes.
test.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
And
I'm,
most
I'm,
people discovered they hated their homes.
yes. Like, oh, I'm here. I don't like this.
Yeah. And you
I
start
don't,
looking at things and you're like, listen, we were all there. We
yeah.
were all there. I got rid of a desk.
Mhm. I got rid of a ton stuff. I started organizing my spaces and yeah, you kind of when you're put in a position like that, you kind of observe like what works for me and what doesn't. And then you realize that I need to probably get rid of the things that don't serve me, that don't
Yes.
work
Welcome to
instead of
Feng
just
Shui.
yes. Yes,
Yes. So
absolutely.
when you step into a space, do you take it in? What is the flow within this room and how are things flowing into each other? And how does this necessarily represent the homeowner's journey through life?
Right. I think for me, when I first step into a space, I'm a little speechless because I'm taking everything in. I'm
Mm.
taking, how do I feel in this space? Like, how do I personally feel as an outsider coming in?
Mhm.
How do I
Mhm.
personally feel in this space? Because most likely that's how a guest is going to feel. And then number 2, I tend to ask the homeowner, how do they feel in the space? And most of the time they might say, I like the space, but I just feel like it's not, I feel like it could be so much better. Or
Mm. Mhm.
I feel like I know what I like. I know what I don't like, but I'm not sure what I like.
Mhm.
And so or they've just come to the realization that they're just design fatigue. Like,
It's
they're just
real.
like, I've looked at all of the websites and I'm exhausted. So how do I make this my own? And that's what they need my help with. And so those are questions that I start off with. And I make observations because design is everything from taking into account everything from the floor to the ceiling. So it's the
Mhm.
floor, it's the walls, it's the ceiling, it's the lighting, it's the access points, doors, windows, it's tying into the architecture of the home.
Mhm.
Is it an apartment in Midtown, downtown? Is it a loft that was once a warehouse? Is it a single family home that's new construction? Is it a restored historic home?
Mhm.
that has a specific time period, which you see a lot, in Philadelphia. What type of architecture does it have on the outside? Because that is also, that's
That's a
also
pet peeve
something
of
to
mine.
consider. Yeah. You you walk especially with all of this
I'm like,
modernization,
"What the hell just
and you're like,
happened?"
"Whoa, the inside doesn't marry the outside."
That's right, and I feel like maybe I stepped through time and I'm not sure what just happened. What happened? Something doesn't there's no cohesiveness and why
Yes.
like, yes.
And I always explain it as the best explanation I have is like your home should be a book. Not
Mm,
each chapter, each room should be a chapter. Each chapter is not necessarily the exact same,
yes,
but one chapter flows into the next chapter, which flows
yes.
into the next chapter. So each chapter has its own identity. Like your kitchen has its own identity. It doesn't have to look exactly like the dining room, and it doesn't have
Mhm.
to look exactly like your bedroom, but it should flow. It should be telling the same story. It should be
Oh, I
in the
love
same
that.
book. That's the best
Love
way I
that.
describe it. Yeah.
And the exterior is the cover.
Exterior is the
Like,
cover. Right.
make this a complete story. I
Yes.
absolutely love that.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh my god. I seriously, I'm like, "Do you wanna come over?"
Well, I mean, we're neighbors.
I mean, we really are.
Like, it's so funny because of technology. We can connect with people that are in different states, in different
That's right.
countries.
You
So
don't
when
expect them to
somebody
be, like, down
says
the street.
yeah, when somebody says, like, they're my neighbor, I'm like, "Great, so, like, you're on the East Coast."
Right. However, I mean, given our life stories, I feel like we've been neighbors all along because
Yes.
I was New Jersey to
Yeah, that's right.
DC to Boston to New
Yes.
Jersey to
Yeah.
DC to Pennsylvania. Like, it's all in the same
Yep.
exact area,
It's all in the
always
same
stopping off
area.
in New York.
Right, always stopping off because I mean, I feel my parents met in New York. They were 2 immigrants, and so when I tell that story, they're like, "Of course your parents met in New York."
Of
It's
course
like a
they did.
melting pot.
Yes, of course they did. I love it. Well, Sabine, how can people work with you? Do you work with people virtually or is it always in person?
I do. I try to meet people where they're at.
Mm,
And so the easiest way I break it down is the I could be anything from just a helping hand for like the DIYer, the person that wants to do it themselves. And that's where a lot of like virtual design services or what I call a la carte, like just one service. Like, oh, I just need help picking out a paint color because there's a trillion of them.
right.
That's something. To okay, I just need you to just do everything and oversee the entire project. So I work both virtually and in person. So I do both.
Well, listeners, I will have all of her contact information down in the show notes. Just scroll down, easy
Mhm.
links, click on them, and go go make a discovery in your home.
Yes.
Help turn things into a place where you can sit, feel at peace, feel represented in your own home. Because in order to go out in the world and be represented and represent yourself, you need to know what that feels like. That's the
Right.
foundation of your home. So
Yes.
figure
And
out
feeling
who you
safe.
are.
Yeah,
Yes, and
like a
feeling
safe
safe.
a safe place because especially after a long day and just like all of the things that can go on. And safe could you don't even have to leave your home. It's just shutting off the computer.
Absolutely. Put
And
it
it's like
down.
just putting down the computer, because even if you work from home, you could feel like, "Oh, I've been home all day," but, like, shutting off the computer and just being in that state of mind of, like, I feel like, "Okay, I could treat this place like a retreat, like my home. It's a safe
Yes.
place that I want to be in."
I call that the sanctuary. I firmly believe that everyone
Yes.
deserves their own healing sanctuary. That is your home. That is your
Agreed,
space, you
agreed.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you live and breathe, and in every inch of every wall and every floor and every ceiling, you're represented
Yep,
and your best self is represented.
yep,
I think that that's so important.
yeah. Very
Oh,
well
Sabine,
said.
thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for spending time with me.
Thanks
I
for
so
having me.
appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise, likewise. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for sticking in here and listening to us. laugh and chit chat and all the things. Like I said before, all of her contact information, her website, her email, everything that you're going to need is in the show notes. Please scroll down and give this show a like. Let other people know that it's out here. If they need help designing their homes and establishing the foundations of peace within, share this episode with them. All right, everybody, thanks so much. See you next time. Okay, that's it, listener. Before you go, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and set your notifications to never miss an episode. If you'd like even more with me, come on over to nagarelife.com. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, go on and share it. Share it with somebody that you think would enjoy it as well. All right, I'll see you next time.